Hi everyone, my name's Darrell,
And I'm Nicole.
and we're gonna start a new thing. This is gonna be a podcast that we do about A-liners, and we're probably gonna do it about once every 2 weeks or so, but it kind of depends on our schedule.
Kind of depends on whether or not we're going to have internet access wherever we go, because we're both retired and our plan is to start traveling a little bit more around the United States, particularly in the Southwest. So we've had our A-liner for about a year.
Yep.
And what have we done with it so far, Darrell?
We haven't, well, we went on probably, I would say, 6 trips or so since we've had it. Basically, the major things that we've done on it is really not much. We did the kind of the LED light upgrade, and so the blue LED light, it would never turn off, and that used to drive Nicole crazy.
Yes, it did.
So I took it into an RV shop, and I had them modify it so we could add a switch on both of the LED lights so we could actually turn it off. And I think that was pretty successful, only cost us a couple $100. So I think that was really good.
That was a good modification. Other than that, it's just your basic
2022
A-liner Classic.
A-liner Classic with the hard dormers and the permanent bed.
A little bit about us. So I'm Nicole. I've just recently retired, so I'm kind of new to this whole relaxing and doing the podcasts. Darrell's been doing videos for a little bit longer than I have, so he's a little bit more comfortable in front of the camera and talking.
Yeah, as comfortable as I can be. And so basically the format for these podcasts is both me and Nicole are a member of a whole bunch of different A-liner groups, and there's a lot of really good discussion on the groups, whether they're about a new owner just kind of asking sort of beginner questions, and I create videos specifically for that audience just to try to help brand new owners out if they haven't owned a camper before, because I was in that exact position just a year ago, just trying to learn. And so,
And
yeah,
it's also kind of nice to have a brand new owner doing the videos, because we kind of know where we have fallen short.
Yep.
And where some of the videos that are done by more experienced campers like leave the beginner wondering exactly how they're supposed to do it. So a lot of our videos, especially we did one on hitching up where I had never hitched up before, and so we had a checklist and we went through, and you could kind of see me fumbling about,
Yep.
which was kind of, I think, informative for other people who might be scared about hitching up.
Yep. And I think a lot of people have watched that and have really enjoyed it. We did some really nice video shots, especially of hitching up and how the coupler connects underneath the hitch ball and how it makes that connection. And that's something, even experienced owners of trailers can mess up on. And so it's really kind of important that you understand the mechanics of how that works.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the forums and we're going to kind of look at different things. So Darrell and I are quite different. Darrell's a lot more active than I am, and I'm a lot more lazy, for lack of a better word. I kind of am going to be looking for things about comfort and maybe some organization type things. Well, what are you going to be looking for, Darrell?
You're going to be prettying up the A-liner, making it nice and attractive,
Comfy,
soft. And I'll look at more of the technical side of things. So somebody that's making modifications, for instance, the other thing I did, I guess it's really not a modification. I guess it's more of a fix. Where my microwave, we took a trip to the Grand Canyon a number of months ago, and on the trip, the roads were just terrible, and everything was just bouncing around in the potholes, and so our microwave came loose, and yeah, I always heard about that, but I was like, oh, it's not going to happen to us. Yeah, it came right out of the hole. And so I was looking through the Facebook groups on how to fix it, and there was no really kind of standard fix. There was a couple of different fixes. And so that's the other thing as I did is I better secured that microwave so it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're envisioning that these podcasts will usually be about 30 minutes, but we're going to do the reviews of the forums, and then we're also going to try to do some interviews of people.
Yep. So anybody that has kind of a really outstanding modification. And, if we notice that a lot of people are making comments about it, we're going to reach out to that person and to see if they would be interested in discussing it a little more in depth, because there's only so much you can really do when you're kind of writing the post. And so pictures and kind of talking about it, and I'll have questions specifically about it, something I don't understand. And so that can a lot of times illuminate and make it a little easier to understand and how to do that particular modification. And it also will highlight a specific member, and highlight the accomplishments they made in doing that particular modification.
Which will be kind of nice.
Yeah.
We're also going to try to reach out to Aliner to see what their view is on some of these modifications, to see if they're planning on, bringing them in, see what their thoughts are on maybe making a design change.
Yep. And so there's a number of people from Aliner we would like to talk to, their marketing person, their person in charge of, the production line, customer service kind of people. And so, yeah, I think, it'd be interesting to hear a little bit more from the folks that actually work at Aliner and create these trailers that we all love so much.
And maybe, if customer service will tell us, oh yeah, they've had, 1,000 complaints about the microwaves coming loose, then, we'll see that that's more of a fix maybe that we should focus on. Getting out to people.
I don't know if you guys heard or saw my post, but I guess they're doing away with the microwaves, so they're not going to have to worry about that anymore.
Well, I wonder if that's because it kept coming loose. So like we mentioned earlier, we're going to envision that it's going to happen every 2 weeks. But like next week, we're going to be out in Yosemite.
Yep.
So maybe we'll do one actually in Yosemite while we're there.
Yep.
But we can't release it because there's no internet.
Nope. But we can get a lot of the video done. Maybe we'll do maybe we'll find another Aliner owner in Yosemite. That would be fun.
Maybe have them on the podcast.
Have them on the podcast.
Talk about it. All right, so now we're on to the meat of our first podcast.
Yep.
And what are we going to talk about, Darrell?
We're just going to talk about the twin beds. I had put a post out there a couple of days ago. So the post was basically, who has got the twin bed Aliner model, who would be looking for one, and also, who modified their existing Aliner to make it into a twin bed. Because when we were first looking for Aliners, that's one of the models that we really wanted.
We really, really wanted the twin bed because
we have dogs.
We have 2 dogs, and we were like, how are we going to sleep in a bed together with the dogs?
Yep.
Our dogs normally sleep on the bed with us. And so we were envisioning 2 twin beds, one of us per bed, 1 dog per bed.
Yep.
We figured that'd be perfect.
Yep.
They were very hard to find.
We couldn't find any.
Yeah.
And we really wanted one with dormers. I think I found maybe a couple Ranger 12s, but they didn't have dormers on them. So we ended up moving on. We ended up getting a classic with the permanent bed and hard dormers, and we really love it.
It's really nice.
But
so Darrell sleeps in the big bed with the dogs, and
Yep.
I sleep on the dinette. I have that always converted into a bed, and I sleep over there.
Yep, but that just sort of limits our space, so we don't ever use the dinette, and we always have the permanent bed made up. And so it really limits our space within the camper. And a twin bed would be so much nicer because it would just open everything up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I would still, even like to modify my existing Aliner to support the twin beds. And we'll talk about that just a little bit later. But basically, I put a post out there about the twin beds, and I got a lot of responses. So if you look at the, well, let's first talk about the Aliner Ranger 12 twin bed. So we're looking at the layout. I'll bring it up on screen right now. And you can see with the Ranger 12, they actually modified the dinette a little bit. They made the dinette a little bit smaller, and they were able to push the sink over to the right and the stove. And where the storage, the words for the storage is on the bottom, that's where the actual door is. And then the twin beds basically take up the rest of the space. And there's a nice nightstand between the twin beds, so you can put your little knickknacks right there. And then you've got a nice little aisleway to get in between the twin beds. And you know, our dogs could have slept, you know, between the twin beds right there, or could have slept somewhere else by the dinette. But that would have been,
Or they could have slept on the bed with us.
they could have probably slept on the bottom of the bed as well. That would have been a really nice option. But that was a layout that I really like. And you know, when I did my post, it was the layout that people saw. And I think a lot of people probably actually didn't see the twin bed layouts because they only offered them for a couple of years. Basically, when COVID hit, I guess it was 2020, late 2020, Aliner did some things to streamline their operation, and maybe some of the models that weren't quite selling as well, they temporarily discontinued them. So one of them that they discontinued was the Ranger 12 twin, which, like I said, we really liked. And you can see what it looks like here with the twin bed option. So that's with kind of the cushions in place. Now, another really popular layout was the Expedition. So this is the Aliner Expedition twin bed. Now this is something we really couldn't consider because we didn't have a big enough or a good enough tow vehicle that could tow an Expedition, but I really like this layout as well. So you have the bigger dinette because the trailer is bigger. You actually have the toilet and sink and the stove, and then you have the door kind of just to the right of the toilet, basically. And this is a really nice layout as well, and it gives you the toilet, which is great. It doesn't have a shower, but it's really a nice layout. And there was a couple of people that posted, yeah, they thought they had gotten like the last Expedition twin, and they were pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I would have been excited to get this one too.
Yeah, and the really nice thing about the Expedition as well is it has kind of a covered sink. So the sink, I guess, is just a little bit higher, and so it gives you that extra counter space. But you can see what that Expedition twin looks like, and that's a super nice model.
That is really nice.
You know, I think we're planning on getting a different tow vehicle, and if that does happen, and one of these Expedition twins becomes available, we might be selling our Classic
and getting this Expedition.
Yeah, this looks really, really nice. So those are the two models that Aliner used to have that they aren't selling anymore. Now, since Aliner doesn't actually sell twin beds anymore, there is a manufacturer that sells a twin bed A-frame layout, and this is a company called Rockwood. And they sell a hard side A-frame camper similar to the Aliner camper. It's a little bit heavier, but you can see that they actually have the twin beds as well. But I think with the Rockwood, at least somebody was mentioning in the Facebook groups that they only have one dormer. They don't have two dormers on both sides. So that would be a downside of the Rockwood as opposed to the Aliner that could have two dormers if they do actually bring the twin beds out. But this is a really nice layout as well.
Yeah, this would work.
Yep. So I did the post about the twin beds, and you can see the kind of responses that I got. So obviously there's a lot of interest in the twin bed option. Now there are folks out there that actually have done a conversion from a regular A-liner to an A-liner with twin beds. And so that's one of the things that I was asking about was who actually did these modifications. Now, if you look at the A-liner LXE layout, you can actually, this is the one with the shower and the toilet, you can see that there's no really that much infrastructure that's in kind of the back of the trailer where the sofa bed is. And so that would actually be a relatively easy conversion where you could put twin beds in the back of the trailer without having to move much in regards to infrastructure. And so here's an example of somebody that did that conversion. So Ed, and he said he basically took a weekend and kind of did this. But this is his LXE model that he did a conversion from the LXE into the twin.
This looks really nice.
Yeah, it looks really nice. I mean, this is something we could actually consider doing as well. We could get an LXE. I just don't really like the way the LXE looks. It's kind of boxy with the way they did their toilet and the shower. That's really why I like the new Evolution trailer. It's kind of hidden, but in the existing LXE, I don't like the way the shower looks all that much. But still, some people
We don't really need a shower. We're never gone that long.
No, but we would like a toilet.
toilet would be kind of nice.
You could also do the same thing with the Scout. So the Scout doesn't have much in the way of infrastructure. So you've got electrical, you don't have propane that you have to deal with, and you don't have water tanks that you have to deal with. You have some plumbing if people connect to the city water connection, but there's really not much that you would probably have to do on the Aliner Scout to convert that to a twin bed. So that would be a pretty easy conversion as well. Here's an example of our Classic. Now, this one doesn't have the permanent bed like we have. And I'm gonna go ahead and go into our Classic with the permanent bed and show you the infrastructure that I'm gonna have to move around if we would want to do that. Okay, so looking at making my Classic a twin bed. So basically, in order to do that, here's the microwave. So this is where the twin bed would actually go. So this entire microwave, the storage area would basically have to be pulled out. Now I have seen somebody with a Classic that actually took their microwave and they moved it over here or over here. And they made it kind of like more like a half dinette. So that would be a possibility because we have power over there. So I don't think that would be all that difficult to do. Now, the other thing that would require is to take this sink. If I wanted to keep the sink, I would have to take the sink and I would have to move it somewhere as well. As well as all this infrastructure over here. So, you know, of course we have the water heater and the water pump on-off switches right here. We have our thermostat, we have power, and we also have the propane furnace. So I don't know if that propane furnace could actually stay there and if the twin bed can go on top of it. I kinda doubt it, but I'm not sure. That's something I'd have to check with somebody with on, you know, the kind of area that it would need around the furnace. And let's look in actually inside underneath the sink and see all of the areas underneath there that possibly we would have to move stuff. All right, yeah, so looking inside, right, so we have our furnace right here. We have our wheel wells. Over here, we have a lot of plumbing that we would have to move. Here, I believe we have some electrical that we would have to move. We have our power over here. So this is pretty extensive. This right here is the propane gas line, I think, that goes to the furnace. And also the furnace has some electrical running to it as well. The igniter, so we'd have to figure that out. And of course the furnace vents outside, and so that's really not an easy thing to do, to actually move the furnace if we would actually have to move it. So a lot involved there. So now let's look underneath the bed and see what would have to move underneath the permanent bed. Yeah, so one of the things I did forget about is the thermostat for the heat pump. That would have to be moved. But some good news. So actually looking underneath the bed, yeah, there's really not much to move here, right? So we would have to get the, we'd have to do some reducting for the heat pump, and that would be covered. So basically, you know, we'd have some sort of a shelf there or something like that, which is fine. So it would be like a little nightstand, but we would be able to maintain this. So this is the storage on the left-hand side, which is great. And all of this stuff, the plumbing and the water tanks, would not have to be moved. So that's some good news. This is all of our electrical connections. So this would have to move. So all of these would basically probably have to move. I guess it would move probably over to this side of the twin bed. So we would cover that, and that's probably where basically that box, that converter box, would move. But yeah, actually to do the twin bed underneath is not all that bad. All of this stuff, would have to move. But it's not terrible, so not bad at all. So they were definitely thinking, it looks like this infrastructure right here is pretty much the same that they set up for Ranger 12 or any other model. So that's good. Yeah, and so I think my biggest challenge basically would be having to move all of this stuff right here. Um, yeah, so it'd be interesting if anybody has actually thought about this and has started to draw it out on how it can be done. That would be really interesting to hear. And it'd be great to get John Field's take on what it would take to actually modify an existing Classic into the twin bed option. So okay, so we'll get back to the podcast. All right, so you can see, I really had a lot of infrastructure to have to move on our Classic, and so it's likely I couldn't do that. I'd probably have to hire somebody to do it. I know John Field has a lot of experience in creating twin bed models, and so I'd be really interested in his take on how I could modify my existing Classic to a twin bed, and what I'd have to do and how much that kind of thing would cost. And I'm hoping to talk to John Field a little bit about that, and hopefully he'll be able to also join us on one of these podcasts. It does seem like there is a lot of interest out there in the Aliner community to get the twin bed option available again. So we are going to be reaching out to Aliner directly to find out if they can get somebody to talk about the possibility of bringing this back and when that could happen. And in which models that would actually show up in, whether it's going to show up again in the Ranger 12 or the Expedition, or maybe it shows up in the Evolution. And so hopefully
it'll show up in a smaller model,
yeah,
not the Evolution, because I don't think we could tow the Evolution with our current tow vehicle.
Well, the Evolution does have a smaller model, so they do have a 12-foot. The Evolution is in a 12-foot model, but the Evolution is a lot more costly, and so it's kind of a step up. And so, yeah, we would prefer it to be available on a lower cost model too, as well as the Evolution. But we'll see, what Aliner says and the possibility of bringing that back, because I think it's one of those things. I'm not sure exactly how well the twin bed initially sold, because it really wasn't offered for very long. I think the first model was actually available in 2021, because typically Aliner starts bringing out their new models in like March or April of the previous year. And so, we were kind of starting the COVID thing. And I think once things got really serious with COVID, then they had to streamline their operations, and that's when they made the decision that they weren't going to no longer produce those models.
And that's a sad thing, because we would have been really happy with the twin beds.
we would have been really happy. We're really happy with what we have, but I think that would have been perfect for us.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the points that I was trying to make is that I don't think initially that they sold very well, but they really didn't have them out there for very long.
Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up our podcast.
First episode.
So we're not only going to talk about twin beds, we're going to talk about other modifications. So let us know if there's a modification that you have done that you're proud of. Just drop us a line.
Yep.
Maybe comment on this post or comment on the podcast, and we'll try to feature your modification, maybe have you on for an interview.
Yep. And we've got a couple of podcasts kind of in the can here, so we're going to try to talk to somebody from Aliner. We're going to try to talk to some existing owners. So if you are interested, if you have done a twin bed conversion, and if you are interested in kind of talking about your process and how long it took you, yeah, reach out to us, and we'd love to have you on. And yeah, so we'll hopefully we'll be talking to some owners first after we get back from Yosemite. So it's likely our next podcast won't drop for a couple weeks, but we'll be looking forward to seeing you then.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Goodbye.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays.